Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Audi Academy. Today you join us in Germany at the Nürburgring GP circuit with 16 competitors in command of Audi R8 GT4 machinery. I'm Jack Mays with Callum Kirwan joining me in the booth and the always lovely Ash Baby on the cameras. Get ready for a sprint because there's only 40 minutes between our drivers and the checkered flag. I will also go ahead and mention that I am feeling a bit under the weather today. I will do my best to keep my energy high and my coughing to a minimum. Callum, I hope you're excited as I am for this brand new series. How are you doing today?
I'm all good. I've had a busy old day, but happy to be sitting and comment on the first of these 6 rounds of our Audi Academy. So just to run through how it works, we've got 3 different cars this series, 6 rounds, so you do 2 rounds in each car. The first obviously being here with the Audi R8 at the Nordschleife, and we also run at a multitude of different circuits as well. We've got round 2 is going to be at Zandvoort, round 3 at Monza, round 4 at the Red Bull Ring. Then we go to Silverstone and rounding it off at Kyalami. So yeah, I'm interested. We were talking just before about when we were going to see weather. Kevin, who runs and organises this specific championship, always likes to throw in a wet race in a championship, but we were discussing when it might be. It's not going to be today, though. We don't think it's going to be dry for all these drivers as we are in qualifying now, as we are seeing the lovely shots provided by Ashby of Pimlott going around, coming through the Schumacher S's, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be wet today, but it is debilitatingly cold. I mean, air temp and track temp both at 16C, which isn't, debilitatingly cold as I so aptly put it, but it is definitely a bit cold. And considering the nature of GT4 cars, there's a lot more mechanical grip involved than perhaps aerodynamic grip, especially compared to cars we'll be seeing later in the season. And getting those tires up to temperature and sort of keeping them in a good window is probably going to be a bit of a challenge. And speaking of Kevin Boss, we're on board with him now, getting ready. So we're going to go on board for a lap, braking quite late for turn 1, I gotta say, slowing down the car super well, jumping over the curb as we're getting ready into the stadium section. It's a little bit of it's sometimes a lift, sometimes a brake, depends on the driver, but it's all about maximizing rotation, maximizing exit, getting ready, rolling into turn 3. Definitely a tricky corner, catches a lot of drivers out. Turn 4, same deal. You try not to take too much curb and definitely not go wide of the exit. Super easy to get a track limits violation. Turn 6, a bit of an exciting corner, one of the more higher speed or mid to high speed corners. Kevin going a little bit wide there, ending up braking on the inside for turn 6. Now heading down. Sorry, not turn 6. That was turn 7. He's now winding up sort of one of the many mini straights on this circuit. The banked sort of downhill hairpin. Another tricky corner, probably going to be a bit of an overtaking spot today. We're heading up, winding up for the Schumacher S's. Mount one curb, turn in, just tap the other. Gets a little bit out of shape. Hit all 4 curves he does, running all the way up to turn 11. Brakes just after the 100 board. Maybe takes a little bit too much of that inside curb, pushes him a little bit wide. Now we're turn 12. This exit is probably the most important of the whole circuit, just because this is our longest straight. Well, it's kind of a straight. I mean, there's a corner here. That's turn 13, but that's flat out in basically every single car ever made. We're getting ready. This is the GP layout with the Vidal chicane, braking late just after the 100 board, skipping over both of the apex curbs in the chicane. Final corner now. Maybe gets a little bit late on the brakes. Sort of goes a bit wide of the apex. But getting ready, running that long run down to turn 1. He crosses the line to do a 2:06.2, seeming a bit off the pace just to start with. I'm sure that was his first out lap, and I imagine drivers will only be getting quicker as nature. I'm sure they've all filled for the whole session, and tires are going to get up to temperature, and they're going to sort of feel their way around how the circuit's doing.
Yeah, I did a couple of laps in as a sort of practice when the championship got announced around here, and it does take sort of 2, maybe 3 laps to sort of get the tyres properly up to temperature. Obviously, it depends on what setup these guys are using. They have had the chance to practice in the practice servers with the same conditions as today's races, so they will have some idea of what tyre pressures to go for, as we see Richard Meerman in that beautiful orange, white and black liveried car, number 15, coming through the final corner, looking to set his first lap. Very easy in these cars to sort of understeer wide there, because as you said, they're GT4s, they don't have a lot of aero, so it relies a lot more on the mechanical grip of the car, as Meerman jumps into 11th, 2.5 off the pace, so he'll be looking to improve. But yeah, they don't have as much aerodynamic grip, so it's more about mechanical, and just if you overload the front tyres with steering input, and especially with the exits of a lot of these corners on the Nürburgring, where they're quite quick corners. Yeah, you've got the slow chicanes, but coming out of the final corner, coming out of sort of turn 7, I believe it was 7 or 8, and then coming out of the corner just leading onto the back straight, it's quite easy to understeer wide. As we see Will Stevenson crossing the line. 2 Stevensons in this race today. We've got Will and Les, both racing together, so we'll see how well both of them get on. But yeah, it's a tricky car to drive. It just takes patience, though.
I gotta say, yeah, definitely a bit of a tricky car to drive. I certainly love GT4s. I do like the sort of almost wobbly nature of them compared to their much stiffer GT3 counterparts. I mean, there's a lot more sort of undulating and a lot. Honestly, you'll end up with a lot more controllable oversteer than in a GT3 car. I mean, you can sort of hit the limit, but end up sliding these cars, and under some circumstances, in some corners on some circuits, that may be the fastest way to get around. I mean, a little bit of lift off oversteer, but not really around the Nürburgring. As Julian Kurz is just showing a little preview of, I think, what we're going to be seeing a reasonable bit today. Turn 1 at this circuit is famous for going deep. I consider it like the Monza 0.5 in the amount of calamity that's often seen at turn 1, lap 1. Hopefully today don't get any of that. These are some absolute world-class drivers, so I can imagine they'll all keep it together. I gotta say, Callum, it's interesting seeing the sheer number of cars basically just, they've painted them. They haven't covered them with any stickers. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
It's weird, isn't it, to see? We were saying this, that a couple of the drivers that we expected to have full-on liveries don't have full-on liveries, but obviously, as we sort of worked out in the pre-show, that's going to probably be an invalidation from Will there, as he dives straight into the pit lane, proving my point. That's too much inside curb in the chicane. But yeah, Andy Bourbon was one of the people we were talking about, well-timed Ash Bibby there. He's edited the livery. That is a custom livery, but it's just not got any sponsors on it. But these guys are only doing 2 races in each car, so to make a livery that looks the same on every car with all of the sponsors is a lot of work. A lot of these guys have liveries made for them. A lot of these guys make them themselves, so maybe just not quite worth the time just for 2 40-minute sprint races. But they have still put some effort in. We'll have to see if there's anybody that's gone full-on livery, as we see Kevin coming through turn 1 into the quite difficult and never-ending turn 2. It just feels like it goes on forever. You've got to get the car straightened up, enable it to get on the brakes, tap it as much as you can down into turn 3, and then it's a little bit of a blend coming through to turn 4. Don't run wide, don't invalidate, but get as good of a drive out as possible, and then coming down into this left-hand kink, you can brake quite late. Obviously, there's normally cones on the right-hand side. They have been long gone. It's down a gear. Yeah, a lot of drivers taking them out on their out laps, just because they get in the way of the ideal sort of racing line. You want to use as much width as possible, running out there to get the best entry into the corner to widen it up. But yeah, not as many liveries as we used to, but it's okay. They've still put some effort in, and we can't knock them for that. But yeah,
Absolutely. I just kind of, my little headcanon that I've been developing is almost like a little track day. Everyone just sort of, wrapped their cars ever so slightly and are just like, yeah, it's just it's an open circuit day, instead of big teams, big sponsors. It's just a bunch of privateers, driving around. Excuse me. As Matt Malcolm sort of jumps up a couple of positions there, a reasonable lap. Looking up the board, I gotta say, I was expecting Andy Boardman to have this one pretty much sewn up. I mean, in practice, he had, I think, about quarter of a second on the rest of the field. I'm sure most of them were in race trim and certainly not pushing to the absolute maximum. But Huel currently sitting in P1. Absolutely slamming it as Nico Kumpu, the former rival for Andy Boardman, at least in our last series, the Sylvia series, showed him that it might be another fight all season between the two of them. But Huel P1, Dauber P2, and just the margins between the top three is pretty incredible. I mean, this is not a simple circuit. I mean, it's quite honestly one of the trickier ones. I'm certainly quite terrible at it in the stadium section. Is one of my least favorite pieces of circuit of anything in the world, mainly just because I'm incapable of driving it well. But very fine margins here in qualifying. I mean, this is equal machinery after all, but setups differ for sure. I mean, I'm sure all of our drivers prepped pretty extensively, getting the car set up to suit the circuit and also to suit their individual driving styles, because some drivers prefer a bit of a safer setup. Some of them want it more loose in the rear. I'm sure the variance in the amount of downforce, I mean, the rear wings especially, some drivers may be preferring top end speed versus sort of higher speed stability, as Tom Shipston jumps up just a couple of positions, 7/10. I mean, there's only about 3/4 of a second separating the top seven so far. Joe Dauber clattering over the curbs. I mean, I think we all know that was an invalidation, and he fortunately is still able to stay out and has time for just another lap. Nico Kumpu is probably not going to make it round and have time for another lap, though he actually might. I'm not 100% sure, but we're wrapping up qualifying here. Callum, what pre-race predictions? I know new series, it's kind of a lot of unknowns, but who do you expect to do well?
Oh, I mean, it goes without saying that Raphael Huel's always going to do well. He every series I've commentated on that he's been in, he's been up the top end. Same with Nico Kumpu, Joe Dauber, Andy Boardman, the people up there. I think there's a couple of people that Kevin, Mike Redford have probably got a bit more pace than what their qualifying performance shows. So I'd expect to see them sort of jump up a little bit further maybe in the race. But yeah, I think these people up at the top end of qualifying are always up at the top ends of any of the series that we run on any of the sims that we're on. So yeah, I think they're going to sort of be battling out at the front. Obviously, they're giving themselves some of the best chances possible. Only sort of 3/10 separate the top five, as we see a new driver, we think, to RCI, Sastra, coming through to set their final lap. So qualifying has ended, obviously, but we do have a countdown timer for people to set laps that they're on currently. So I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars currently still on a lap, including all of the top three. So we'll see how well they get on. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where some of our new drivers come through. As I'm being told, Raphael Huel is massively up by Ash Bibby in my ears, so we'll have to see how well he does in that number 21 car. He's currently coming out onto the back straight, so we'll see if he gets a good exit. How hard do you reckon he's going to launch the chicane? I think very is the answer.
I don't know. I'm looking at his delta right now. I mean, he's up about 3/10, almost 4/10, and it might be wanting to take it a bit tentative through here. I mean, that was definitely controlled. Lost a couple hundredths to be sure. Joe Dauber actually jumps up 2,000ths, but unfortunately for Dauber, Huel is up. He didn't get the greatest exit around the final corner, but 2/10 to the good of Joe Dauber. Nico Kumpu, our final driver, on our deltas right now. Not doing well. I think he's going ahead and just electing to dive into the pits. I think Seth Sarah is going to be our final qualifier here. Not quite up on their time, but still going to cross the line anyways. That was a really impressive final lap from Huel. I mean, there was extremely...
Oh, Jack, are you
Three
there?
purple. Oh, am I here?
We had a bit of
Oh,
a robot problem. But, yeah,
okay.
you are back.
Wonderful. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Huell was very impressive.
Oh yes, Yule, very impressive. Definitely a statement piece with 3 purple sectors. After all, I mean, uh, that seemingly going to be our car to beat here in round 1, but the race is always different from qualifying here.
Yeah, these guys are going to have different, qualifying and race setups. So it's going to be to see how well they've optimized, things like fuel loads and things like that. So, it's only a 40-minute sprint, so it won't use the full tank. As we see, Will Stevenson only setting 2 laps in qualifying, but finishing in P5. So just to quickly run through the order, you've got Huell followed by Dorber, Kumpu, Boardman, Stevenson, Thibaut Roskam followed by Tom Shipson, and then Les Stevenson, Pimlott, Matt Malcolm, Kevin Boss, Mike Redford, Richard Mearman, Kurz, Hugo Dobby, and Sasra rounding out the back of the grid as we are just waiting for the session to start. But yeah, as we cut to a little bit of a dead screen as we wait for everyone to get gridded up. Jack, what are you thinking is going to happen? Are you thinking turn 1's going to be a bit of a battleground here?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna put it on the cards. I think the lead's gonna change in turn 1. Um, I mean, getting your braking point perfectly, coming off of not quite warm tires, and certainly if you're in P1, it's very hard to not just stare directly in your mirrors and just be like, oh, what are they doing? Where are they braking? And with that being said, you might outbrake yourself. You might brake a little bit too early and then actually get dove by other drivers. But we'll see for sure as we're gonna do our Ash Bibby special grid walk, the drone walk, as it ends up being. Definitely a striking livery for Raphael Huell, one of our few drivers who's gone for a full race livery with included sponsors. Another one, Joe Dauber, just a pretty basic livery. Another of our, well, not entirely basic livery, but a Fanatec car for sure. I believe this is actually Nico Kupu's usual livery. It looks strikingly similar to the M2 that I'm so familiar with seeing him, and our I guess reigning ACC champ, our Sylvia Series champ, the number 69 nice car piloted by Andy Boardman. And Will Stevenson, like you said, 2 qualifying laps, but they were absolute blinders. Starting in P5, definitely good. And must I say, smooth camera work from the Bibbler here. As as we are continuing to make our way down the grid, Tom Shipson, another a much less of a. It reminds me a bit of Les Stevenson's livery last season. It was a 50-50, not quite as insane as Les Stevenson, but a good livery after all. The 46 car, speaking of, piloted by Les Stevenson. So we have a partner car to Raphael Huell. That's Neil Pimlott. Those two are teammates running a similar car design. Well, not a similar car design. They're running the same exact car because, after all, if you're teammates, why make 2 separate liveries? That's just too much work. Possibly my favorite livery of the bunch. This is Matt Malcolm. I love the colorway. It's sort of a blue purple with a striking pink, and the always wheelie slow livery piloted by Kevin Boss. A true classic of livery designs, as we have the ChatGPT designed really slow livery. That may be insider information. I might have just said something I wasn't supposed to, but too bad he told me, and I can't keep my mouth shut. We're nearing the back of the grid here. Few more liveries to go. Few more cars to go. As we're getting some titles on board of just sort of showing off. Say, hey, I'm quick. Don't put me down as Mike Redford is a very quick car. Usually a lot better in race trim than qualifying trim. I feel like this is double deja vu, as we have the number 16 car of Julian Kurz running a similar livery to Matt Malcolm. Whether or not that's a custom livery, I'm not actually entirely sure. That might just be a base game livery. I like it regardless. Here we are back of the grid in the gold and black car of Miri and Sassara, we're definitely going to see, well, I guess gold, black, and silver. We're going to see how they do, and what, honestly, we're thinking we could be entirely wrong of their debut with RCI, hoping for an exciting race from them, hoping for an exciting race in general. Callum, we're getting ready for our outlap, not our outlap, our formation lap. Drivers furiously going to be warming their tires. If you were a Huel right now lining up in P1, what's your strategy for turn one?
I mean, first of all, I wouldn't be lining up for P1. I'd be down at the back of the grid, and that's probably why we're both commentating and not racing this series.
Oh, absolutely.
These guys are a lot quicker than me. I don't know about you for sure, but
yes.
A little flash of lights from Huel. But yeah, look, you've got to defend the inside into turn one. You can't let yourself get lunged. The way it opens up, he's got to be looking to defend the inside. But then obviously that puts you in a difficult situation for turn two, because then that allows someone to then sweep around the outside, take the momentum into two, and then be on your inside for turn two. So he's got to try and sort of hold his line round turn two if he does take that inside route. It all depends on how much of a launch he gets compared to Dorber off the line, but I know Joe will be gunning ready and waiting for the lights to turn green as soon as he can. But yeah, I think it's difficult because how your rival and how sort of P2 and P3 and maybe even Boardman back in P4 react and sort of position themselves determines sort of how you then have to take the rest of the stadium complex, and that will affect the race lead. I think it's going to be I'm hoping for a quite close battle. I don't think we're going to have an Andy Boardman whitewash like we did last time out in the M2 series, the Sylvia series, but yeah, I think it should be a nice close fight today. Hopefully, a lot of meat for us to get in. And don't worry, as ever with a me and Jack stream, we do have something in case the racing action gets a little bit, monotonous, and we've got a little debate lined up for you to throw in there if the time comes. But we'll it might come today, it might come on a different stream, but we'll have to see whether that comes to age. But trust me, it is a corker.
Absolutely. It will certainly get covered by the end of the season. I can promise you that, whether it's this round or another, or we save it for the finale. We do have a bit of a shorter race format than we're usually used to. I mean, hour-long, hour 20 races tends to be the standard, except for longer endurance series. Those are an entirely different beast altogether, as we see several Audis sort of merging into each other, warming tires. Obviously, there's no collision on the formation lap, which thank goodness for that, because I'm sure some of these guys would get impatient and end up spinning each other out. Maybe. But certainly hoping for some good, high-quality racing. It may have been a whitewash last season in terms of Boardman going 5 for 5 on wins, but midfield fights were absolutely spectacular. There were some battles that lasted for, a full 30, 40 minutes, which were truly great to watch. Hoping for some more of that, and maybe up in the front as well. It is worth mentioning as well, there is a mandatory pit stop. These cars can easily go 40 minutes. Frankly, they could easily go an hour, but a mandatory pit stop set up by Mr. Kevin Boss. I prefer that sort of wrench that gets thrown into a race program such as this. It forces cars to, not just head down, drive till the checkered. You got to remember there's one other thing you got to take care of, and in ACC especially, hitting your marks on the pit stop can determine winning or losing. Another callback to the Sylvia series, there was a race that was decided by someone missing their pit stop markers, but we're getting ready, rounding the final corner. This is round one of the Audi Academy GT4s at the Nürburgring. We're waiting for the green flag to get waved. Will Huel end up defending his position into turn one? Will Joe Dauber go around the outside? We are green flag. A good jump from Joe Dauber. They're basically entirely even going into turn one. Huel just a little bit ahead. Who hits their marks? They break identically. Cars behind getting a little bit out of shape. I think someone just got bumped in the rear, but Huel does manage to keep it into turn one through the stadium section. A bit of a breath of relief there for Huel. It's very hard to overtake at this point in the track, so it's all about managing that gap, getting the best exit you can. As I say that, running just a little bit wide, forcing a bit less exit speed through this next corner. If you get offline, it's sort of you're gonna be thrown for a loop throughout the whole section. But an incredibly, as we see the cones just get murdered on lap 1. I'm kind of not surprised at all that ended up happening, but a very clean start. I think there was a little bit of contact in the rear of one car. Not 100% sure who was on who, but a good clean start, Callum. What's how long do you think is it going to take for this to fully heat up?
I think, well, whenever the tyres heat up, so it depends on how well these guys did their outlap. Another thing that I did see on the start was Nico Kumpu was quite far back from the rear end of Raphael Huel. He didn't seem to make the most of the available space. You obviously in ACC you have a visual aid that tells you where you can and can't be in terms of your start, and he was further back than Andy Boardman was. He actually started behind Boardman. And usually he should be slightly in front, so that caused him to lose the place in the opening corners as Boardman just was further forward. So they got about the same launch off the line, but he was just further back, so he couldn't make the most of his equal launch with Andy Boardman, and Boardman managed to do pretty much the same as what Raphael Huel did to Joe Dauber and just sort of cut him off and sweep round the outside instead. But yeah, so a bit unreal. Unlike Nico Kumpu to not maximise a race start, as we see something we saw in the Sylvia series. I don't know whether it was Mike Redford in that, but a car diving straight for the pit lane in lap 1. Now, to explain the strategy, it was Les Stevenson in the Sylvia series in the finale of that. Explain the strategy. They pit on lap 1 because then you have clean air for most of the opening of the race. So it allows you to drop back. Everyone's got to do the pit stop, so you don't gain or lose anything, but it means that you drop back sort of 20 or 30 seconds or so, maybe a bit more than that, and then you then just have clean air to push into, and then it prevents you from getting held up by any cars in front of you. As we cut back to, I think this is going to be a replay at the start, we'll have to see Jack. I don't know why I said Callum. Oh yeah, there was a little tap there in the back of, I'm trying to work out who that. I think that was Kevin Boss got a bit of a tap in the rear from, I believe, Mike Redford.
Yeah, I believe you are absolutely right. As speaking of Mike Redford, here he goes, sort of trying to dive down the inside into a much slower car. I believe that's Pimlott there ahead, getting a bit close. I mean, it's all about fine margins, but considering the nature of this circuit and the nature of the machinery that all these cars are driving, it is extremely impressive that that's all we had on lap 1, as now Joe Dauber on that last lap managed to put in the fastest lap of the race so far. And I'm also seeing the pit stop time for Mike Redford that last lap was on 1 minute 14. That is an eternity of a pit stop, so he's going to be well in the back. I think that was also a damage repair as well, considering he did a little bit of a bip on Kevin Boss in that turn 1 incident. Wonder, probably just considering go ahead and repair it. Usually that level of damage wouldn't be too bad, but maybe it ended up being, it was a bit of a double bubble incident for him. 2 knocks to the front of his car, so I think it's just worth going ahead and fixing that now, as we're on board with Hugo Duby coming out of the final corner, keeping it nice and close with Kurz ahead. These cars tend not to experience the greatest amount of tow. That's something we got to see in the Sylvia series quite a lot. Those M2s, it basically made no difference if you were running behind a car. It was always about getting moves done in the corners, but Doobie picking a much more narrow line, going up onto the grass, ending up going a bit wide. That might actually end up being a bit of a track limits blip from the automated ACC system there. And speaking of penalties, usually these Monday champs are live stewarded. This one, so far at least today, I don't know if it's for the whole series, but I heard word that it will not be live stewarded, so that will just be the normal system of putting in tickets and letting our wonderful stewarding team do the work post-race. and hopefully they won't need to be doing too much of that. Hopefully there's not too many incidents. We like nice, clean racing here, and well, a little bit of contact is fun every once in a while, isn't it, Callum?
Yeah, rubber's racing. I mean, it's natural with these types of cars that they do run side by side. You do run quite close. I mean, I was talking to you earlier about some of the work I was doing today, which it did involve vinyl wrapping race cars. So I can tell you that it is a more tedious and time-consuming thing to do, and you would definitely not vinyl wrap a full liveried race car just for 2 races. If you could avoid it, so no wonder these guys haven't done it virtually either. But yeah, like we work on Ginettas, and the Ginetta Juniors, always we see, I think that's Will Stevenson running wide in the chicane. That will be a track limits warning, and he's now running side by side in the final corner with Thibaut Roskam, I think that is, who's got the place. So Will just slotting in ahead of Les, so it's going to be Stevenson on Stevenson into turn 1. Maybe he'll try and get that position back off Thibaut Roskam, just shaping to the inside, showing in the mirrors. Les gets really deep on the brakes there, trying to hang it round the outside of turn 1 and get the inside for turn 2. Thibaut Roskam gets all crossed up in the middle of the corner, and that allows Will Stevenson to dive back down the inside. He's still there, so he's got to give him the room. Down the inside of 3, is it going to be a bit of a bang of doors? Yes. And that is going to be, I think Will may be able to hold it around the outside. He's going to get a better drive and the inside line. If they touch again and bang doors, it looks like a Ginetta Junior race, Jack. The amount of damage these guys are going to come back into. There's going to be some scrapes down the side of those cars. But Will, he's lost the place, but he's kept his head, and then sensed the opportunity with, I think, Roskam just making that little bit of a mistake in turn 1, getting a bit of snap oversteer. And then, capitalised on it and made the place back, and now he's going to try and push on ahead and try and close that sort of 5-second gap up to Nico Kumpu, see how well he can do that. But yeah, no, it's natural that these guys are going to have a bit of door banging and rubbing, and that's just racing. These guys aren't going to get putting in tickets over that. It's going to be anything where unintentional contact that's significantly ruined someone's race. That's going to be the sort of thing they're going to be looking at, as we've sort of got a bit of a Will Stevenson train with Kevin Boss bringing up the rear of it, trying to push onto it.
Yeah, I feel like we brought in that rubbing is racing into we brought that into this race just by mentioning it. Commentators, we do have special powers, and if we talk about things enough, they will end up happening in a race. I'm sure commentators' curse is something that everyone is pretty familiar with as an idea, as Tom Shipson just goes over that curb crazy. And Les Stevenson doing what Les Stevenson does, going for that early pit stop. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised that he ended up waiting that long. I think he was certainly enjoying the close battles that were happening, and decided, maybe I'm going to lose too much time behind these cars, go ahead and do the box. And I think that will be our first indication of a normal length pit stop. As actually I see that Matt Malcolm, he did in fact box on lap 2. We completely missed that. That's a 119, so I believe fixing his front end damage as well. Or, well, I'm not sure if he had a whole lot of damage. I think maybe missing his marks, something of the like. That's definitely quite a bit of a longer pit stop. Thibaut Roskam absolutely not hanging around. He decided that this fight is still very much on. These two drivers definitely seeming to be a bit equal, as Will Stevenson going a bit offline, a bit wide there, as they're running down the mini straights, as I will call it, towards turn 8. Turn 8 can be an overtaking zone. You do have to really, really brake late, which, speaking of, Thibaut Roskam does absolutely hang it pretty late. Carries all of the momentum as he can, using all of the circuit. But the move is just going to have to wait. I mean, this section is not entirely one where you can make that move, but you can do yourself enough favors to that by the time you get to the 14-15 chicane, that if you're enough alongside on that straight, you can outbrake your opponent. And but Thibaut Roskam may be losing a little bit of time in that section. Tom Shipson, however, gained quite a bit of time on Roskam. Just decided, a good old two-way fight turning into a three-way fight. One driver makes a mistake, and the others are just going to be so ready to pounce, absolutely clattering over that curb. Will Stevenson taking a enormous amount of entry curb as actually Thibaut Roskam decides, I think I'm losing time as well. Let's go ahead and box. Maybe a bit of damage repair. We're not 100% sure, as Les Stevenson's stop time was a 1:15, so I believe that's about actually where the pit stop times are going to be is around the sort of 110 to maybe 120, depending on whether you take a little bit of damage. I mean, these cars are they're taking a little bit of fuel on board, but I'm not sure. Actually, not sure if fueling is mandatory. I can't say for sure. Perhaps I'll clear that up with Mr. Boss by the time we're ready for round 2. But Andy Boardman giving Joe Dauber a bit of a fight, staying in his mirrors. Both of these cars, both of these drivers, extremely quick. Dauber having the edge so far into this race, but the real edge is Raphael Huell. I mean, 2 seconds to the good of the next closest car being Joe Dauber, but Boardman's maybe thinking, I can get by this guy. I can catch that. I can catch that Huell fella, but he's gonna have to push on because Huell's done a 2:03.8. Boardman's about 2/10 slower with a 2:04.060. We'll see once if he can get into clear air ahead of Dauber. That fastest lap might change. He's getting real close coming out of the S's and into turn 11, turn 12 now. Definitely pushing on. The slipstream's not terribly strong, but it might be enough. He may go for the send here. It would be an almighty send. Dauber doesn't cover. He doesn't defend. I think he knows that this chicane is just too fast. The braking zone is too short, that it ends up not really being doable. Boardman going a bit deeper, hoping for maybe a bit of a better exit, using all the width of the circuit. I think, Callum, we might be about to see one of our first on-track, actually I think our first on-track overtake here.
Yeah, I mean, just to cut back a little bit as we see, Boardman's going to send it down the inside. Of course he was on Joe Dauber. He goes deep though. Joe's going to get that position. Boardman just trying a bit too hard on the brakes there into turn 1. It's very easy to run deep and sort of just understeer. The front tyres just don't grip, especially with the way the circuit drops away on the inside as well. You just sort of lose all front end and end up going straight on. So well played by Joe Dauber there. He knew what was happening. He let it happen, and he knew how to make it out of it in front. But I wasn't surprised, cutting back to Les Stevenson pitting, wasn't surprised to see him pitting because with all the battling that sort of Will Stevenson and Roskam were doing, they were losing about 1.5 seconds in sort of the time that we were following them to Nico Kumpu up ahead. So I'm sure he wanted to just pit, try and gain a little bit while those two fought. Obviously that plan has been ruined by Thibaut Roskam being very rude and pitting and coming out right in front of him. So Les now has a battle on his hands. But yeah, I wasn't surprised to see them pitting. And also, no need to bother Kevin Boss. I can tell you that it is a litre mandatory of fuel, a mandatory tyre change. And then obviously if these guys want to fix their own damages and they can, that is up to them, absolutely. But you have to do fuel and you do have to change tyres as well.
Interesting. That's not something I would usually expect. I mean, these tires are not gonna burn up after 40 minutes. It actually would be pretty impressive to completely shred these tires in that short of amount of time. But I guess that's to, extend the pit stop time so that the delta is a little bit greater. It's a little bit more risk. Taking that earlier stop.
I think it might be in there in case we do have a wet race as well.
Oh, I think
allow people to go from wet to dry.
Absolutely. I think.
So it might be in there to allow people to do that.
I think you might be onto something there, as Andy Boardman decides, which is actually entirely unlike him, because leading the field previously in the Sylvia Series, he always was pretty much always the last to box because he was leading the race. There's no point to pit from the lead because you're already in clear air, but he decides to blink now and head into the pits. But I think there is something to be said for maybe the later stops being, it equalizes the strategy a bit, because those early pit stops seem to be the absolute best strategy last season. But now it sort of allows that if someone's going to box later, they can shred their rubber and then just put on new boots towards the end, maybe get a little bit of extra pace. I can't imagine it would be too big of a deal. Mike Redford getting just a little bit out of shape there towards the into turn 11 and 12, I should say. It's interesting to see the difference in lines and the difference in strategy through a lot of these corners, especially the Schumacher S's. It's people seems like have their preferred lines, but these cars almost seem to have a mind of their own going through it, because I've seen, certain drivers take one curb, certain drivers take another, as Matt Malcolm doing everything he needs to do in that third sector to close up on Mike Redford. I'm going to see he's got to go for it here. Yep, Redford decides not to defend at all, but he does brake nice and late. Leaves a lot of space, potentially just a little bit too much space, but coming up to the stadium section, hanging around the outside is basically impossible. Not impossible, certainly for these drivers, but definitely impossible for me. Malcolm electing that more narrow line, staying in the mirrors a bit, forcing Redford offline, going for a little bit of a switchback here. He does have a little bit of an overlap and got a significantly better exit. They are completely too wide, unfortunately for Matt Malcolm. It is a left-handed corner next time, so he is going to have to slot in behind Redford. But a big, definitely a cat and mouse fight between these two. Redford usually seems to have quite a lot of pace. Matt Malcolm is no slouch either, but the difference in lines is Redford actually sort of narrowed his entry into that corner, almost looking like he was defending just a bit, which would not be entirely necessary. Now we're seeing the full onboard with Matt Malcolm as I'm seeing these cars clattering over the curb in the Michael Schumacher S's, but they're matching each other pretty well on pace here. We'll look up at the deltas to see. Actually, yeah, Matt Malcolm's been slowed pretty considerably behind Redford, but I don't think we've seen the last of this fight, Callum.
No, as you cut to me while I was mid-yawn. Thank you for that. But yeah, I think it's quite hard to overtake round here, as we're seeing sort of whatever line you take into sort of turn one, which seems to be the catalyst for trying to move. There's always a reasonable defence as we see Redford mounting all of the curb and then running wide in the final corner. But yeah, there is a variety of different lines you can take around here as Matt Malcolm gets a better exit, and are we going to see a repeat of the previous lap? I think we probably might do. We might try something different here just to force him offline, but that is all you can do, is sort of show in the mirrors, try and force the other driver in front off their line. As if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Redford goes for the wide line, and it's broke this time, so he's run a little bit too wide and just not managed to carry the speed. So obviously the benefit of that wide line is it allows you to open the corner up and carry sort of a higher minimum speed than someone taking a tighter, more inside line. But if you do mess up or have a bit of opposite lock mid-corner, or don't quite get it down the gears enough, or miss your turn-in point, then it leads to that where you lose out massively on the outside of the corner, and you just look like you've let someone else past, which is not the intention. As we see Pimlock defending against Will Stevenson, which I think he's just got ahead of him in that last sector by the looks of things, because he was behind him on the board to the right, and now he's in front of him. So I'm assuming he's made an overtake somewhere in the opening part of the lap. As we see, he's not touching that inside curb on the first part of the Schumacher S. He does mount the inside curb on the second part, but I found when I was driving around to see how these cars handled it, that inside curb on the first part of the Schumacher S seemed to upset the car a little bit with the setup that I was using. So it was just quicker to avoid it and just sort of have a little blend of the throttle, and didn't really lose much time. Another thing I did notice is you can double apex the hairpin as well, and that gives you a better drive up to the Schumacher S. So if you're defending and going narrow, as long as you don't leave a car's width on the inside when you're double apexing, then it can sort of help out with a bit of drive up to the Schumacher S if you think someone might try and hold it around the outside of you into the hairpin to then get a drive and try and slip up the inside of the Schumacher S. So these guys will be, thinking constantly about the car in front, the car behind, trying to sort of work out the best way to defend without losing as much time as possible to cars around them. But yeah, there's lots of different ways they can defend here on the Nürburgring. I'm just sort of looking forward as well. Some of the other rounds we've got sort of this season. So obviously we explained that there's 2 races in each round. So the first rounds are both GT4, so Zandvoort, and then we're going to cut to the GT2 for the second round in Monza, and it will stay in that car for the Nürburgring. And then finally for Silverstone and Kyle Army will be in the full fat GT3 racer. So sort of going up in aerodynamic downforce, I guess you could probably say. Not necessarily power, because the GT2s do have a lot of straight line speed. It's just they don't do quite as well as in the bends, as we see Shipston pitting from 4th place. So get on the pit limit at the right point. Hopefully he hits all his marks, and we'll see how quick of a pit stop he manages. But yeah, so we'll cut up to those different cars at different points in the series. It'll be interesting to see how many people have made liveries for all of them. One livery though that I do really like, and I think is quite underrated, is this Fanatec gold and black. But it reminds me a lot of Jimmy Broadbent's Praga that he raced in the Praga. I think it was Praga Cup then still. So, but yeah, it reminds me a lot of that car, and I think it looks really good, especially with the little gold light that you can fit around the front of the grille on the GT4s as well, Jack.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's certainly unique. I mean, I'm sure if it were you're maybe not paying a whole lot of attention to your mirrors, that car randomly shows up and it's just this streak of black and this big gold mouth just sort of staring at you through the mirrors is certainly a striking piece as we now go up to someone we haven't really been on board with at all, Raphael Huell, because he's just been doing too good of a job, and he's just been absolutely smashing it, putting in the good lap times. I mean, he's one of the few drivers that's actually in the 204s. The only other driver I'm seeing right now is Nico Kumpu. However, some of these drivers I think are on outlaps, are doing dealing with traffic a little bit as well. But it is seeming, unlike in the Sylvia series, that the earlier pit stops are considered favorable for most of the field. I mean, the racing length is compressed, so we are just past half distance. But for all cars except 5 to have boxed, well, I was going to say all cars except 5, all cars except 4, Nico Kumpu has decided he's going to stop for his mandatory liter of fuel and bolt-on of tires, as we're now seeing Andy Boardman, Joe Dauber, yet again, these two pitted out of sequence of each other, but still managed to be one after the other on track. And I'm looking ahead at Boardman actually having the quickest stop so far of the day, a 113.8, Dauber a 115.0. So that sort of couple of seconds that maybe were lost on potentially an outlap, I mean, it was a bit of an undercut, as Will Stevenson is getting out of the way of something. Something just happened. I mean, this is the Pimlott-Stevenson battle. I think Stevenson just getting well alongside, and I think electing to sort of hand that position back. It wasn't the cleanest move, and I think honestly the stewards might have looked a little bit less favorably upon that if he kept the position. However, he's sticking his nose in through the final corner, forcing Pimlott wide. He gets a mega drive out of the corner, and they're dead even going down the straight. I mean, Stevenson has the inside line here, but I think Pimlott's got to be running a little bit less wing, because he manages to end up back ahead. They break just about equally. Stevenson, though, on that inside line. Pimlott gives as much space as he can, gets a good drive out of the exit of turn 1. Now they're in the stadium now. Probably going to stay too wide. A little bit of a bang coming out. Pimlott just sort of saying, hey, I'm ahead here. I'm just going to go ahead and take my line and, sort of give you a little bit of a bump. Pimlott goes a little bit wide. I think his exit might be slightly compromised coming out of here, but this is one of those corners. I mean, turn 6 is almost impossible to overtake on. However, I think Will Stevenson might be considering trying it. But no, he still sticks in behind. We have turn 7 now as Pimlott disappears. Pimlott is disconnected. I think we're having our first bit of... oh, never mind, he's back. Okay, good. I was worried because that was a really enjoyable fight, and I would have been really disappointed if that's how it was decided. Oh, I think Pimlott might be gone. I think something might be going on with the server. I'm noticing the tool that we have that shows that I'm looking at for lap times and what have you. It briefly lost a bunch of people, and then a bunch came back. Maybe a little bit of server issues, but it doesn't seem to be stopping the drivers at all. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be stopping these guys. I'm wondering if Stevenson has been able to see him the whole time. A bit interesting there, but I think we're going to see maybe a little bit of a dive into the chicane. Pimlott sort of electing to take that inside line. Stevenson's a little too far behind. I think Pimlott's definitely running a little bit less rear wing. He just has that top speed advantage. But as we've been seeing, Stevenson a little bit quicker into the corners. Takes that wire line through the final corner, hoping for a little bit of a better drive. He gets it just about. We'll see Pimlott is sort of jinking over to the left, but not quite defending entirely. Neither driver really wanting to take their car onto the marbles, but Pimlott just sort of driving up the middle of the circuit. Stevenson going for it, just sort of letting off the brake just so he can gain that position. Another door bang on exit. But the position is done so far for Stevenson. I mean, I'm going to be honest. You could roll a dice to decide which of these drivers are going to finish ahead of the other. This is some great racing we're witnessing here, isn't it, Cal?
Yeah, it's good to see. I think from the looks of things, it's fine on the driver's end. I don't think they'd be racing that closely as we see Shipston trying to get racy with Les up in... coming down towards the hairpin now, but yeah, I think it's fine on the driver's end. I think you wouldn't be racing that closely if a car was blinking in and out. So maybe it's nearly October. Kevin's probably set it to the spooky server setting as we've got a bit of spookiness going on now. But I think it looks like it's fixed itself. So no need for any stoppages or anything like that, or any resets. But yeah, it seems to all be working fine for now, he says. Commentator's curse inbound, of course, but... Ash Pippy just said a very loud bang. I might need to turn him down in Discord because that made me jump, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, no, it seems like it's all sorted itself out for now. Raphael Huell has pitted and come out ahead of Joe Dorber. And then Andy Boardman is ahead of Nico Kumpu. So everyone has now pitted. The pit window is still open for another 10 minutes, but no one electing to do the strat of staying out until the final lap and then pitting on the last lap possible. Everyone's done their pit stops, so it's a straight fight to the end now. Whoever's in front of you is whoever you are battling. And for Shipston, that is Les. As we see them sort of glued together. We had it in the Silby series, didn't we, where we had sort of it was bigger pockets than this, but we had like pockets of cars battling, sort of 4 or 5 cars sort of all on the same similar pace to each other, and they'd have a good long fight for the entirety of the race. But we seem to be seeing that with just sort of 2 or 3 cars at a time now, as Shipston just following Les's lines, going to sort of wait for him to make a mistake, see if he can do anything. Maybe hold it out for the last few laps so Les can't have the opportunity to respond. But yeah, smaller pockets of cars, but we do only have 15 on circuit at the moment, which I think means we have lost a car.
Correct. So that's something I was actually... Yes, that was something I was about to bring up, because I noticed we were down a car. It's actually the debutante of Marion Sathsara. I'm not sure if there was maybe some amount of connection issue, because we entirely missed when that happened, but it was...
I can tell you, it was a disconnection error. They've just gone into the Discord chat and said, sadly, unfortunately, I had a disconnection error in the middle of the race, which is a word I can't say, but otherwise I'll get shouted at by all of the RCI admins. But it's the worst thing to happen. Asking if it's a DNF, and it was their first round here at RCI, so I'm sure we'll see them out in future rounds. But yeah, unfortunately, one tiny bit of spookiness that sort of did seem to hold its own is a disconnect, but it does happen sometimes. It's unfortunate. I'm sure we'll see Sassara out in the other GT4 race at Zandvoort as we still have Tom Shipson glued to the back of Les Stevenson, still following him. Maybe trying to get a better run out of somewhere, but Les knows how to defend. He's been in many a season of RCI now. He's known for his rather interesting liveries, isn't he, our Les? But I don't think there's anything too spooky on his car. Usually there's a photo, but I don't think there's a Roca Poker or a wedding photo or anything on there.
It's a bit unfortunate. I think he's one of the drivers who elected to maybe not make a livery for the GT4 cars. I have a feeling they'll come around GT3 just because GT3 by nature is sort of the most popular race discipline, not just on ACC, but on just about every single sim ever made, ever. Just because GT3 racing the cars are not too tricky to drive, the racing is always very good, and there's so many different makes and manufacturers and unique type of racing. But I would imagine just about everybody's going to have a GT3 livery done for our final 2 rounds of this series. But yes, my hope for Marion Sassara especially is that this doesn't discourage them from participating in future rounds. It sounds like it's just it happened. It's Tom Shipson actually diving up the turn 8 hairpin. Brave move there, sort of runs Les out of room, catches Les napping just a tad. That was quite the send. As we see, just isn't defended, breaks just enough. There is a little bit of door bang that sends Les Stevenson wide. I have a feeling that perhaps there is a universe where that could result in a penalty, but that will be decided post-race. But for now, I mean, that was certainly an exciting looking move. But as I was saying, it's easy to be discouraged by disconnects and stuff like that, and things outside your control, because you practice for the race, you get prepared, you show up on the day, and something outside your control happens. But it's important to shake it off, show up next week, because we want to have you. We like seeing lots of cars racing, and we pro segue. We love the people that support our racing. As I'm going to shout out some of our partners here, starting with Ready Set Sim. Build the sim rig of your dreams or your budget in seconds with the RSS Sim Builder, available from the link below. And Coach Dave Delta. Coach Dave can help you climb the sim racing ladder with help from their apps, setups, coaching, and more on your favorite sim titles. I think just that they do just about everything, including Gran Turismo 7, which is kind of neat. Green Men Gaming, where you can score huge savings on PC games, including new releases with the Green Men Gaming, as we see. Matt Malcolm just getting a bit caught out in the turn 1 braking zone, going very, very deep. If this was the RSS Endurance Series, that would be a bingo square. That was an interesting one. He just kind of, not only, it wasn't like a broke late-ish. That was just like a very, very late. Could have been, as he's beginning to, I think he's letting some cars through. I'm not sure if, seems like he may be having a little bit of tech issues, a little bit of pedal issues, because this is a bit strange, but it seems like he's on the move now and sort of dropped back into the clutches of Hugo Duby and Richard Meerman. So I think this battle might hot up. I'm gonna pause the thanking our partners just for 2 seconds to see if maybe we have a little bit of a battle on our hands. I'll probably leave it till just about the end of this lap. Maybe see him go into turn 1 and see what happens as Meerman going a bit wide, a bit deep, but with that line, we'll end up getting a pretty solid exit out of the hairpin. Entering the Schumacher S's, Malcolm seems to be back to his usual self, back to his comfort, taking all of the curb in the world, taking a bit too much grass. Ooh, as Hugo Duby did the exact same thing on the second curb and just gets spat right out. I think he was a bit taken out. Yeah, just too much of that inside curb bouncing him square across the circuit. I think he was caught out a bit by Matt Malcolm's sort of lack of exit. He took a bit too much curb. I think that gravel slowed him down just a bit. But Hugo Duby being there to pick up the pieces. He gained 1 position. I'm sure he's looking to gain another. Coming through the chicane, I think Matt Malcolm might have just gotten track cut for that. That was a lot of curb, and ACC doesn't look too fondly upon stuff like that, but no DTs as of yet, and probably not going to be any as we're running down the clock for about 5 more minutes. But I don't think... sorry, Hugo Doobie was not the car behind that. I think it was Richard Meerman. Hugo Doobie was the car that went off circuit. I apologize. But Meerman there to pick up the pieces. But I think for the moment, I have a second to go back to thanking our very important people. Green Man Gaming. Score huge savings on PC games, including new releases with Green Man Gaming by following the link below. Moser Racing, which needs no introduction. They make quality direct drive hardware that doesn't break the bank, and they do just about all the simulation hardware they want. Trucks, planes, race cars, drift cars, everything. Pimax, who deliver class-leading clarity and resolution with their current range of VR headsets. They have like a 12K headset coming up, which is absolutely, utterly insane. But we have a discount code in the link below, and always a super special thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended esports community. Wonderful, kind of a pretty prestigious honor to be on their list, and it's very much appreciated. Them and all of our partners, and please look down in the description for links. Is Andy Boardman getting a little bit of a better exit towards into the final corner as, oh no, Dauber got caught out a little bit. Boardman dove up the inside, sort of popped him a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, goes for the absolute send, just running a little bit deep. Dauber caught out, and sort of Kumpu was sitting there, sort of holding his line, and Dauber not expecting him to be there. That is a bit of sorrow for Joe Dauber, driving an incredible race. Very, very well held in everywhere, but whether that was a mixture of a mistake he made, Boardman, that was a heck of a send, I must say. But as always, there was a little bit of contact, so naturally I'm obliged to think that the stewards will be hearing about that at some point.
I'd be sending that one in. I think that's a bit of a, to use the Martin Brundle phrase, a day late and a dollar short there.
That's a good one.
But yeah, I think that's too much of a send. As we've cut back to the start of the race. We've now got Stevenson on Stevenson. I believe this is the other way around, though. I believe it was Les trying to overtake Will. It's now Will trying to overtake Les. But yeah, it's a bit of a what we like to call a hip and shoulder. He sort of stuck it in there and saw what would happen, and they, ACC physics, they sort of bounce off each other, which you wouldn't really do in real life. But they sort of, GT4 cars are a bit tougher than that. You'd sort of just run side by side rather than just get bounced out. But unfortunate for Nico as well. Obviously he's run a really clean race and was right on the back of that group as well, and just had nowhere to go really with the car coming round. Well held by Joe Dauber, who I believe has got back in front of Nico Kumpu. So yeah, he has. So I think Nico Kumpu's either given it back or got overtaken. He will have some front end damage from that, so we'll see what happens with that. But I wouldn't be giving the position back necessarily, because
that was a lot of curb.
Kumpu's fault. That was a lot of curb. Really getting out of shape coming through the chicane. It nearly spat him round, as I'm sure we're going to have a look at that. Yeah, just launched it up on 2 wheels. There's not as much grip there, but very, very well held by Nico Kumpu. That might have been a bit of a Code Brown moment there. As we cut back to Stevenson on Stevenson. Les managing to hold off Will for now. It's only 1 minute and 13 left. Where's our leader? Coming through the stadium section. So I believe this will be the final lap, Jack.
I believe you are right. I gotta say, the 40 minutes absolutely flew by. Definitely some good racing. Hopefully this is only a teaser of what we're gonna see in this series. I mean, as Will trying to dive Les into turn 1. Just sort of does the thing that happens. Ooh, a little bit of a switchback, but not quite able to slow the car down enough. The reversal of fortune, the old switcheroo. But this fight is going to go down to the checker. We are on our final lap. But I think Kumpu did hand that position back to Dauber. Regardless of who's, it certainly seemed like an accident. I guarantee that Nico Kumpu didn't say, oh, cool, I'm going to hit this rear quarter panel and spin this guy out. No, it was just, I think, a mixture of wrong place, wrong time, and because there was a lack of overlap between cars, I think Kumpu thought it better to give the position back rather than to incur a potential penalty. But the good news
I don't
for
think there's anything Nico could have done about that, though. I wouldn't be penalising. I mean, I am
that's
not a
true.
steward. I am a commentator, but I don't think Nico could have done anything about that. Like, I think that's just that contact was part of the Boardman incident. So if anyone's getting penalised for that, it would be Boardman, in my mind, and how I'd make that work. But I don't know for sure. As we see someone who we haven't seen for a while, Raphael Huell, comes across the line to win the first round. It will not be a Andy Boardman lockout, but he will cross the line in P2, Jack. But we'll have to see if anything gets submitted and taken to the stewards. Joe Dorber finishing on the podium for now in 3rd place, maybe more. We'll see. Nico Kumpu crossing the line for now in 4th. And we will bring that to you as a little bit of the start of the next round, as whether the stewards got involved with that.
Yeah, definitely. Stevenson on Stevenson. Les managed to hold off Will. A great solid race right up until the end. They crossed the line, followed closely by Neil Pimlott. Next across the line, Kevin Boss finishing in P10. Mike Redford just behind them two. And then the final few positions, we got Richard Meerman holding on, which actually seemed to have overtaken Matt Malcolm. Hugo Doobie struggling just a tad on the final corner. He may have lost a position because of that. Unsure, but yeah, I think he was in P14 and ended up P15. I think Kurz said, "Oh, cool, thanks. I guess I'll take that." But that is a lesson of don't, even though it's the final lap, keep your focus absolutely, because the race isn't over until you see that checker. I am not lifting off the gas until I see God or the checkered flag, as they say in the U.S. of A. But a stellar first round. I'm quite pleased with that amount of racing action. I think the 40-minute series definitely, the 40-minute race session is good for this type of racing. It sort of allows cars to not wait around and to absolutely push, running lower fuel. But we have our first winner of the first round, Raphael Huell, a dominant performance from lap 1 to lap 19. He wins the race. Andy Boardman in P2, probably going to be under investigation. We'll let you know next week whether that ends up staying when we go through the championship. Followed by Joe Dauber, P3, had a really, really solid race. Didn't quite have enough to get up to Huell, and that fight between Boardman dropping him down. Nico Kumpu, P4, sort of a quiet race from him. Didn't seem to have the pace to catch the top 3, but nevertheless a good race. T-Bit Roskam putting in a top five finish. Good, solid race from him. Another sort of more quiet race. Tom Shipston had a little bit of fighting early in the race, had to work for his P6, and the two Stevensons fighting tooth and nail right up until the end, Les finishing ahead of Will, followed by Neil Pimlott in P9. Kevin Boss, P10, managing to not let the lap 1 incident get the best of him, keep the car on the circuit, not let the damage make things worse. Mike Redford, a bit of a possibly a race to forget. I mean, a couple clumsy bumps at the beginning of the race, sort of hampering his ability to perhaps finish a bit higher. Richard Meerman, P12. Matt Malcolm, P13, had a lot of work to do in the later stages of the races. The later stage of the race, I apologize, as Julian Kurz finishes P14, a last lap final corner overtake. We're not going to worry about what exactly happened so that move was done possible, but it was a last lap, last corner overtake. I mean, that's well done, as Hugo Doobie was in fact in the gravel at turn 16, and of course our early DC, our debutante, finishing P16. Hoping to see all of these drivers and maybe a couple more next week, as we've got just a little bit more racing action for you guys.
Yeah, I think just looking at the chat that these guys have, obviously it's quite a close group on Mondays, but Will Stevenson ran the wrong setup for the entire race, so that will have been hurting him throughout the whole thing. But yeah, we'll have to see if anything comes of that. I don't think we have anyone waiting to talk to us. I did say that they could come in if they wanted to, but yeah, we'll have to see if anyone does pop in or not. But no one in to talk to us for the moment. But a good opening round. I'm looking forward to Zandvoort. I think it might offer a bit more in terms of overtaking, just with the nature of the circuit being a lot tighter. Obviously, the Nürburgring's got a lot more sort of openness to it, and with Zandvoort, I think it will be more single file and dives down the inside rather than the Nürburgring. Oh, as Raphael Huel has popped into the ready for the interview box, so we'll drag him in a second and say congratulations for winning a race and get his take on how well that went. I'll let you take that on, Jack.
Absolutely. Raphael Huel, welcome to the box. Great drive today, I gotta say. Good, solid, dominant performance. I mean, green flag to checker, not the easiest thing to do. I think it was about 8.5 seconds you had to the good of everybody else. How do you feel after a performance like that?
Yeah, obviously very happy. Has been a long time since I've raced on ACC here on RCI, and just won on my home track, so couldn't be better than that.
Wonderful. Yeah, I was hearing during the race, I was actually being informed by Callum that you're a bit of a veteran and an extremely quick driver. So I sort of was on the Andy Boardman train, since that's who I've become used to seeing dominate the ACC champs. But it seems like, if today were to decide the rest of the championship, you've got it just about sewn up. Of the 3 cars that were racing this season, what's your favorite?
I can't tell. I've not really raced the Audi GT4 before. GT2, I would probably be just as new. I heard that it handles like a GT3, so should be not that hard to get used to. And the GT3, not really my favorite car out of the GT3s, but we'll see how it works.
Yeah, obviously with that being spec, though, I'm sure everyone's going to sort of have the same problems, and as you throughout the different tracks that we go to. Speaking of tracks, obviously Zandvoort next. Not actually far from the Nürburgring in real life, I guess, is it really? But do you like Zandvoort? How do you go well at Zandvoort? I mean, every circuit I've seen you at, you seem to go pretty well at, but how do you feel about Zandvoort coming up? Do you think it might be a little bit closer, a little bit better for overtaking maybe than the Nürburgring has been?
I'm not sure how well I could do on Zandvoort, especially in the GT4. I know I can do well in other GT4s, like the Ginetta, but this car handles a lot differently. So it's going to be a challenge.
Sorry, I was looking. We have about 15 people getting ready for interviews, and I was trying to sort out who's next. But again, congratulations on the win today, Raphael. Anybody you want to shout out before we move on to our next interviewee?
Probably the only one I have to shout out is Go Setups, because I don't know anyone who has a GT4 setup for the Audi. And the one they had was working out quite well, as you could see.
I think we all could see that. I think the whole field could see that. They were just about smelling your dust all day. But you got a target on your back now, so hopefully you'll go well again in Zandvoort next week, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I'd be happy to join again.
Perfect. Well, I think up next, it seems like we got Les Stevenson. Everybody's arguing over who's not gonna go next. So, Les Stevenson, you seem to be ready to go. How do you feel today's race went?
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm absolutely pumped. I'm a little bit disappointed that Rafa didn't shout me out in his interview, so a bit disappointed there, but never mind. I thought we were friends, Rafa. Never mind. But yeah, I'm pumped. I'm absolutely pumped. What about that was at the end, and fair play to Will. I thought at one point he was going to have me, but I managed to fend him off right to the death. But it was a great battle, especially with Will, but also with Tom Shipson as well. But I've never driven this GT4 Audi before, and that was a lot of fun.
As screw the race. Where's the Roker Poker?
Oh.
I'm no good at liveries, and I forgot to ask Callum, my livery man, Callum with the K, of course, to create the wonderful liveries that he does for me. Yeah, I forgot to do that for this GT4 car. But yeah, the Roker Poker will be making an appearance at some point, I have no doubt.
That's good to hear. We're glad. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to ask everybody this question because I'm curious on their answer. Do you have a favorite of the GT4, GT2, or GT3?
GT3 for me. GT3. I've driven it a few times. We've used it in endurance racing, and back in the day when it was a bit more competitive, should we say, and a bit easier to drive. But yeah, no, I love the sound of it, the look of it, and to be fair, like Rafa said, I don't think it's too much difference really in handling wise between the GT2 and the GT3. Sorry. So I'm quite looking forward to getting hands on the GT2 as well, which again I've never raced. So yeah, I'm looking forward to all of it, to be honest.
Well, that's good. I love that. I'm definitely looking forward to the GT2s. I've never seen them raced. I've never seen them driven. I've never driven them myself. I'm not the most versed in the cars in ACC, but I am sort of well versed in the Audi GT3. I just sort of assuming based on how much you like it, you just enjoy pain and code browning on every corner.
Yeah, the meatball flag has appeared a few times when I've been in the Audi.
It's I think the last ACC race I did was I don't even remember the circuit, but it went so poorly. I was driving the Audi that I swore off playing the game, and still haven't.
No, like I said, I've used the Audi a few times in the GT3, that is, in endurance racing, and thoroughly enjoyed myself with it.
It is definitely. I mean, being scared of the car you're driving is pretty fun. Let's be honest here. Anybody you want to shout out before we move on to the other Stevenson?
Well, obviously, you mean the lesser Stevenson? Yeah, obviously.
Perchance.
Yeah, the wife for allowing me to, to venture out into the garage on a Monday night, and bit of a weird one, but I'm gonna shout out Roscoe, poor old Roscoe, who unfortunately had to be put to sleep this weekend. Lewis Hamilton's dog. So I'm a dog lover myself, and yeah, it's a bit of a shame to hear that, but yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Perfect. Well, we're so glad to have you. I look forward to seeing the Roker Poker whenever it does make an appearance.
Yeah, thanks guys, and as always for broadcasting it all, and Ash Bibby, obviously you can't forget Ash behind the cameras. For those who can't hear, Ash did say he loves me, and I'm putting out on the record. Love you too, Ash.
I think he loves me more, but it's okay. Mr. Callum, are you awake?
I am. I've just seen your message saying to take the next one. Will, have we got a Will here?
Yeah, hello.
Supposedly lesser Stevenson.
Yeah, I take full offence to that comment.
I was going to say I would
Thanks,
as
Les.
well. That was going to be my first question, but you've already answered it. But how did that go for you? Obviously, a bit of a battle there at the end. I thought you were going to do him down the inside, and then maybe just overcooked it a little bit into turn one.
Yeah, I probably should have broken a little bit earlier, but oh well. I was kind of qualifying was good, and that's about it. I was kind of the maker for my own downfall today. Put the wrong setup on, which probably didn't help me. And then going into my pit stop, accidentally changed I can't remember what it's called. It's something that basically deleted all my fuel and tyres temperatures, so I had to spend 10 seconds literally resetting everything, which was great.
Not the best pit stop then. I also saw you say you ran with the wrong setup. So was that for the whole race?
Yeah. So I was running the Go setup for qualifying, and then clearly wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and didn't realise the race was about to start. So I had kind of hit drive and didn't put the right setup on. So yeah. Oh well, it was a good fun nonetheless.
But you can blame the setup now on why you finished behind Les.
No,
So
no.
if obviously
No,
if
no,
you
lack
had
of
the
talent,
right
that's what
setup,
it
you'd
was.
have beaten him.
No, lack of talent. That's what it was.
Skill issue. Are you there?
Ash, I think you need to unmute yourself during interviews. I think that needs to be a new
yeah,
policy.
I think we need Ash Bibby interviews. So
You know what? Actually, Ash, unmute yourself. I'm interviewing you.
Wait, what?
No,
All right, next week. Next week. We will
Ash,
hold
get
that
back
off
in
for
your
next
box.
week.
It's just
That is-
descended into chaos.
Something to absolutely look forward to. Will, anybody, of course, you want to shout out before we close out here?
Les and Neil, that was fantastic battles. Yeah, it was really good fun. And then, as always, to you guys for putting on a show.
We do our best. Hopefully, I won't be sick next week, but that will be seen, because, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for round 1 of the Audi Academy. We had, I think, a pretty good event here today, and I'm very excited for the next couple rounds we have. Not only because we have different circuits, it's because we have different cars that everybody's going to be driving. And if you do want to get involved with what we do here at RCI, please head to racerci.com for info about our current and upcoming events. Slots are still available for this championship, so please sign up if you're interested. It'd be great to see a nice chunky grid of V10s all just sort of screaming about, and everyone would certainly agree with me that we'd be happy to have you. Signups are also currently open for the Prototype Sprint Series on LMU that will start in about 2 weeks. I believe those are running on Wednesdays. Those are with the LMP2 cars and the newly released ELMS LMP3 cars, which are quite fun. I must say, I enjoyed spinning in them this past week. And we do also have our Multi-Sprint Series Season 3, which all spots are full. However, you can sign up in a reserve role. And if people don't sign up on race day, or people don't show up on race day, take their spot. Please come join us. Fill out the grid. Great racing to be had in everything we do here at RCI. And of course, one final shout out to our partners, Ready Set Sim, for all your rig building needs, Coach Dave Delta for all the car setup and coaching you could ever want, Greenman Gaming for the wonderful savings on PC games, Moser Racing for high quality, well priced sim gear, Pimax for all of your VR needs, and of course, thank you to Motorsport UK for having us as a recommended community. I've been Jack Mays, joined by Callum Kerwin, and in the box. Sorry. You know what? I'm very tired. I'm going to do that again. I've been Jack Mays, joined by Callum Kerwin in the box, along with the, as always, wonderful Ash Bibby, who will be doing an interview next week. I'm saying it again because it's going to happen. Ash, you are not backing out of it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you all soon.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate.